Hello and welcome to a quick guide for EDD 112 Lab 10 Part 1. In this guide we're going to be showing how to create a function that finds the magnitude of a vector. Basically we're going to use this to walk through the process of creating a function as well as some guides to showing output for these symbolic functions. Now, initially, of course, you need to have a nice little heading like this shown here, and you want to go through and actually have some description of what it is you're doing. I've started this with CLC so that it clears a command window every time it runs, and clear to get rid of any saved variables in between runs, just to make sure we don't have some buildup of garbage. Now, at the start of this program, we want to create our symbolic variables. In this case, we're going to call them X and Y. This could just as well have been apple and oranges, and then in our equation, everywhere we write apple and oranges, it would fill in those values. For our equation itself, we're going to have it called magnitude. And it is going to be written like that. So magnitude, and it uses our variables x and y. And then on the right hand side, this is our equation, so the square root of x squared plus y squared. If we wanted to show this equation, we could do that in quite a few ways. The first thing, you could just write and have it say display. Oop, I have to get that first character there. And so display magnitude. If I were to run this right now, all it would do is it would show, okay, this last line creates the function and shows what our inputs are, which is handy. But let's say we wanted to make it be a little bit cleaner. We wanted to actually write some description beforehand. And so rather than that, we have this. Now, as in previous labs, a display function can only have one argument. And so in this case, we have that in these two brackets here. So we only are displaying a single thing, and it's a list of two items. The first is this text string that says we can find the magnitude of a vector by using the equation. And then it's our equation itself. Now this is going to give us an error, and I'll show why in a second. If I try to run this, we get a lot of red angry letters down at the bottom, and it says, all right, in line 16, we have an error. Now, this has to do with the fact that our equation is a symbol. And so on the left-hand side, we can see symbolic function. That is our equation. So we cannot just show it along with a text string. It's not the same data type as this. In previous labs, we'd use num to string, but this is not a number, so we can't use that. Instead, we'll use character. And this changes the symbolic equation into a set of characters. And now if I run this, it will output and says, we can find the magnitude of a vector by using the equation, and then it inserts that equation. So that's a nice little way to show what our equation looks like. And we can put it into a text string output like that. Now, if we wanted to use this equation, we could use it as just by entering our values. So saying like this, output is magnitude 3, 4. What that's going to do is it's going to enter 3 wherever our x was. And so in this case, 3 squared. And 4 wherever y was, in this case 4 squared. It's going to take the square root of that. And we then want to output that. And again, the same thing as we just did up above. To output it nicely, the magnitude of so and so is character out. Because again, this is going to be a symbolic variable. And so on the left, we can see out is symbolic. And so we needed the character for out. And that just put the nice little sentence down there. If we wanted to continue on and we wanted to make this be a user entered variable and we wanted to give some options here, we could write that as our vector is, and then ask the user for input to enter A, I, and Bj as A space B in a vector form. So entering all of that as our equation, we are going to have much more complicated stuff in this one line. So here we have a display statement again, and it's going to have a single argument. So the starting bracket is over here, ending bracket is on the next line over here on the right, and we have a whole bunch of different aspects here. First, again, I used some text strings. This one is a new function for us in lab, sprintf, which basically takes a number and prints it as a text string. So this converts into a string. And then we have some options here. Now, vect1, this is going to be the first item of the list vector. This part here says we are going to have this be a floating point number with a single decimal place. And I wanted to do this because it looks a little bit cleaner. Character 238, this is actually the HTML code for a special I character. And so if I go to my HTML codes, you can look up and say, all right, for HTML I's, I hat, lowercase I hat is code 238. So in our editor, code 238 is going to just do I hat as a character. We have a plus in there. This just means I continue on the next line instead of scrolling all the way over to the right. We did the same thing for the second item in that vector, and this is the J hat. And then in the end, we plug in our vector as the X input and the Y input in our equation magnitude as is set up here, and then we output it. So if I run this now, we have those first two lines from before, and now we have our input, and so I can just say, all right, well, let's go with 7, 8, and I hit enter, and it outputs it now with magnitude of vector 7.0 I hat plus 8.0 J hat is that. And that's a quick little intro to this part 1.